Okay, we'll get started. Obviously, you saw reports out that in turning the play calling duties over to Thomas Brown. Those reports are accurate. It's always been part of the plan, something Thomas and I have discussed from the time that he was hired. I'm excited for this for Thomas. I'm excited for our team and our offense. Thomas is a stud. He's a great leader. He's a brilliant offensive mind. We all have a lot of confidence in him. And sometimes, and I think the timing is right. This has been something, even from the beginning, that I've talked through with Mr. Tepper and Scott from the beginning of the season. Thought that this bye week was going to be a checkpoint. And really been thinking hard about it the last couple of weeks and kind of knew it was leaning this way. But here we are, and I'm excited to turn that over to Thomas and know he's going to do a great job for our team. So I'll open it up from there.
Can you elaborate on what about now made this the right time?
Just think with the bye, you get those 2 weeks where it's a little bit of a, hey, let's regroup. We do all this self-scout right now. We have a good week of self-scout where we can see what our tendencies are, see what do we want to do to tweak things, and now kind of adding that into the mix, I think, is a good thing.
I know you've had these responsibilities for 5+ years in Indy. How different was this situation than what you've had previously?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I think what was different about this situation and why I didn't do it right from the start maybe was because I didn't know Thomas before this year. And so it was going to be a question of us kind of working together, getting into the season. And obviously, because his aptitude is so high and how fast he is a thinker and on his feet, I knew it was not a question if, just when. But I think when I went to Indy, I had worked with a guy who I'd worked previously with before. The play calling thing is still going to be collaborative. Thomas is going to lead it. He's in charge of it. He'll make the call. It'll still be collaborative, so that'll be similar.
There was no handover during the Dolphins game at all, correct?
No.
This
That's true.
Frank, would you have made this decision if you weren't 0-6?
I believe I would have. I really do. I go back to the interview process with Mr. Tepper when he asked me what would be the intentions, and we talked through all the different scenarios depending on who the coordinators were, and then depending on who I eventually hired. And so when I hired Thomas, I knew it was going to probably happen fast, but I needed to get in season. I needed to get in season and see it all play out. And I'd like to think I'd like to think this is the best decision, no matter what our record is.
I mean, the reason I ask is last week we heard you say that you have an owner who doesn't sit idly by. How big a role did Dave have in this, and did he encourage you to give it up?
No, this is something, as I said, we've talked about this periodically as we've gone, but this was 100% my decision from start to finish. But has he been involved in discussion? Yeah, I talked to him about, all of the things related to this team and how things play out in our weekly discussions. And as I said before, those are great discussions.
Frank, how does this change kind of the day-to-day for you, specifically as it pertains to Bryce?
Not a whole lot. I'm still going to be in most of the quarterback meetings, and like I am now, still helping in the game planning process, still playing a significant role, be there as a sounding board, on game day for Thomas, just like when I'm calling it and I might want to have a question or a thought or ask for an opinion. But I'm not going to micromanage him. He does not need to be micromanaged. I know what that feels like, so I'm just not going to do that. He's going to have control and be there to support him in any way I can.
Are there things about this decision you think will be beneficial to him, whether it's short-term, long-term?
Absolutely. I mean, listen, Thomas was made to do this, and he has a great football mind. He has the strongest leadership qualities that you could ask for in a coach, and so I can't emphasize how excited I am for Thomas. This is just the next step. He's young, relatively speaking, young age-wise, not young in the coaching profession, But I think there's a reason why at his age he has ascended to this position so quickly, because you just get around him for 5 minutes and you can feel it from him.
Frank, to clarify, you said you spoke to David about this when you had the job interview. Were you open to not being the play caller in week 1, depending on the hire?
Yes, I was open. I was open to not being the play caller in week 1.
Sorry, and to follow up, how much does this free you up to be in defensive meetings, special teams meetings?
A little bit, but I'll probably still be in offensive meetings mostly. But it does on game day allow me, like I never get to spend any time with the defense on game day because I'm calling it. Not that I'm going to spend a lot of time, but I can walk over there and engage a little bit more with the defensive guys. And from a game management standpoint, focus primarily on that from a personnel standpoint, game management. Still working with the guys up top in the booth, who help us in that regard. So, like I said, I'm excited. I think it's going to be. It's a change I've looked forward to. Like this second go-round version 2.0. Like I've wanted to get to this point. I'm glad it's here. I think it's going to make us better. I think it'll make me a better head coach.
What was the conversation like with Thomas when you guys?
Well, let's just say that he was very happy about the conversation, and he was ready. And of course, we've been talking. I told him 2 weeks ago. I probably told him 2 weeks ago that, hey, get ready. Here's what I'm thinking. I hinted. I didn't promise because it's the NFL. Things change. But I hinted a couple weeks ago that the bye would be the right time, and so I know he's ready.
You shared before that play calling has really been like your baby throughout your career. What sort of adjustment do you anticipate?
Yeah, I know it's time, but there's a little bit of it that's hard, right? Because I do like calling it. You like being right in the middle of the action. You like being responsible in the crosshairs, good or bad. You got to live with that. I've always loved that about this game, but at this stage, I think for me to be a better head coach, and part of my job as the head coach is coaching the coaches and helping develop the coaches, that whatever small role that I can play in helping Thomas take that step and become a great coordinator and play caller, I look forward to that.
What wasn't working maybe for you as a play caller that led you to make this move now?
I think we've been moving in the right direction. I don't feel like I'm making this as a reactionary move, like, hey, we just got shut out, or with the offense. I think many of us feel like on offense we're starting to hit a rhythm. Bryce is starting to hit a rhythm. That gives me more joy to know that this is not a reactionary move. This is just all part of the plan, and and to help us take the next step for me to be a better head coach. I think it'll help our offense as well.
And how do you envision this offensive change with Thomas?
I don't think it's going to change dramatically. We're not going to install a new system, but listen, everybody's got their own personality, and how you call the game that'll show. And so, I think that'll be fun to see it play out.
Frank, your pre-snaps operations were better yesterday, just in terms of not as many penalties or none.
None, thank you for noting that. Not as many.
Was part of this decision kind of because of that frees you up to, I don't know, be more of an overseer than have too many coals in the fire?
I do think, and I've talked about this with Mr. Tepper and Scott, what are the pros and cons of being the overseer, the CEO, Obviously, there's a lot of people that do. You see this both ways, right, in the NFL, that you see both models. And I've only ever experienced the one personally. So I do think at this stage, it just feels like the right time and the right thing to do. When you're overseeing, you can get involved in all the game management stuff with the defense, special teams a little bit more one-on-one conversations with players during that kind of thing. So I look forward to experiencing that.
Frank, was there a moment or a game where you noticed something from Thomas and you're like, wow, that impressed me?
He's been impressive since I interviewed him, to be honest with you. Every step, and there's never been anything that's ever given me even a seed of doubt about him. So I thought the way he called it in the preseason, in the 3 preseason games, that he called the second half of those games, I could feel it in the very first game that he called that, okay, this is going to be fine. I just need to get to the point where I can let it go, which was going to be, I knew that was going to be hard for me to do. So I had to get comfortable to know our offense was where it needed to be when I turned it over. And that's why I feel good about it right now. Listen, we're 0-6, I understand that. And so as a play caller, there's not much pride I can take in being 0-6. But I do feel like the offense is starting to find a rhythm, and so looking forward to that continuing to grow.
Mike, in talking through the playbook with Thomas through the offseason, you always talked about collaboration. Was there a point, since you guys come from 2 pretty different philosophies, was there a point or something he introduced where it was like, yeah, okay, this is where he stands out?
Multiple things. I mean, multiple things. As you said, Darren, just because they're 2 different schemes, 2 different, not completely different philosophies, but I wouldn't even want to start giving examples, but multiple times you see that, and now how do we meld it together? And some of those that he's given, and boom, I've fully embraced right from the start, and we fully embraced as an offense, and then some of them I pushed back, and we have a good interchange, and so it's been really healthy and good for our team.
Will this be the only major change we see on the surface?
Yes.
No
there
other staff changes?
No other staff changes.
Is there a hope that this provides some type of spark for the team?
I think so. I mean, listen, Thomas, I think it can, and I'm hoping it will. That'll be great. And so, listen, the guys love and respect Thomas, so I know they'll play hard for him. It'll be good, and it'll be good. It's a great opportunity working with a young quarterback like Bryce, for Thomas and Bryce to kind of take this step together. That's a big deal. Getting a coordinator and play caller and a quarterback all on the same page, and really, this is a journey together that you develop a bond and a closeness that's really important in the process.
Jim Caldwell is also in the room. I'm just curious what type of role he's been playing through this process.
Well, Jim is really, Jim has always been a mentor to me in a lot of ways. So I still talk to him about just about everything, and including all these discussions. I've had one-on-one conversations with Coach Caldwell about just about everything that we do. I just feel like he's a voice of reason, very wise. Has kind of seen it all, been there, done that. So I tend to process. He's great for me to we can process through stuff together.
Is there a dynamic that now changes with Parks where, obviously he's the passing game coordinator, but Thomas will be kind of overseeing everything? Is there a difference?
Yeah, no, there really won't be. Parks, as you said, Parks is pass game coordinator. He does a phenomenal job. He and Parks and Thomas have a great relationship, not good, great. The whole thing will be collaborative. Parks has obviously a good say in the pass game stuff as they'll talk, but Thomas is in charge from A to Z. He's in charge. He's calling it. Parks plays his role, in the pass game. The O-line coach always is kind of the de facto run game coordinator. He's kind of feeding run ideas. Parks might be feeding some pass ideas. But then as the play caller, you decipher those ideas, suggestions that you talk about in between series, and then every now and then during a series, you're asking for a little bit of input. But I think it's a good setup.
Right, there was a national report over the weekend that some in the organization had approached you and the offensive staff about becoming more dynamic, especially where it pertains to Bryce. Did that happen, and was that part of this decision?
No. Listen, any discussion in the building has just been all, hey, how do we get the team better? How do we continue to develop? I've never had, a discussion like that. As we have gone from, coming out, trying to really an emphasis on let's reduce the self-inflicted things. So some of that naturally comes with, hey, we've talked about simplifying things, but how do you not get too simple? So then one of the ways you don't get too simple is you go fast, because that adds. So then we did a good bit of no huddle. That has its own dynamic. And now what happens as the season goes, now you kind of get back down to a baseline, you establish the rhythm and the timing and some of the forward momentum that you want to see, that yes, we can be that offense that we envision being. Now you slowly start to add the pieces back on. That's the way I would see it playing out.
There are a couple of injuries. Do you have any updates? Visca, I think, was in a group.
Yeah, no updates. As I said, there are a number of injuries. Obviously with the bye week, and just good bye week for all these guys to get a week healthier. So I'm not really ready to make any report on anybody's status just yet this week.
In terms of Corbett,
Last one.
Corbett and JC Horn, I mean, do you expect them back after the bye?
I think things are, with Corbett, I think things are trending very positively. JC, I know we have an appointment. He has a checkup here with the doctor coming up this week that will, be the next step to make a determination. So we got to I think that it's coming this week in a couple days. So he'll meet with the doc and we'll kind of get the next step there.
Can I follow up one more thing? Thielen, I mean, the numbers he's put up, I mean, has he even surprised you with how well he's played since he's...
Not even been the slightest bit of surprise. And tried to say that from the start, like, this guy's special. He's a special route runner. He's got special football smarts and savvy. He's a unique and elite competitor. He's an elite leader. Obviously you guys can tell Rice has a ton of confidence in him. He just continues to make play after play.
All right, thank you, Coach.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Ray. Appreciate it.